Bonjour mes amis, et bienvenue au Pendu dans un Cercle de Lune. Hello friends. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, then you probably already know from the attempt at a French introduction that I made that this is my series in which I use Cercle de Lune adjacent and antique Italian decks to help me get a central message, a core message from my larger weekly spread. And these days, this year actually, my larger weekly spread is based on the Harris Crowley deck, the Thoth deck. And it's a large spread. It's very intricate. It's got lots of moving pieces too, but moving pieces. And having a central message pulled from it is very helpful, beneficial. Now, if you have not seen it yet, I will put a card up here for you to hop on over and take a look at that video. I highly recommend doing that because it gives you the basis from which this spread is being read. Now, this is an addendum spread, and it's like reading an addendum before you read the main book is less than beneficial and sometimes confusing, right? So watch that larger video, and you don't have to watch the large video in one fell swoop. You don't have to watch it start to finish. You can stop in between and pick it up later and stop in between. So just to let you know. And friends, before I move into the next leg of this video, I want to thank you first for having hit the thumbs up button and for subscribing to this channel. It really does help the channel when you do all of those things. And thank you for the comments you leave below. Every comment helps me. It makes me feel like, yes, people are watching, and I feel invigorated and encouraged to keep on going. I also love interacting with you. If you have questions, if you have a different perspective, I would really love to hear from you. I'd love to hear that. So let me know in the comments below anything you're thinking about the decks, about the reading, whatever. Also, just in case you did see the larger video already, and it's been a while, and you want a small Cliff Notes version of it, well, we'll be getting a Cliff Notes version of it in just a moment, but the larger video for this week was called, what did I call it? It was Impatience. Yes, it was Impatience. Yeah, especially when we think that, when we want something, when we feel that the urge for something for us to experience, to have, to become, when we want something and we feel like it's just not happening, it's not coming, it's not revealing itself, it's not manifesting, we can feel impatience. And that impatience is actually an indication that we have limited our own access to the power of intention. And a lot of the times when we feel that impatience, we want to push through it and punch through it and do something, right? And that is a doubly resistant action. Even more problematic thing. Rather than surrendering to the impatience and allowing it to dissolve, if we try to push through, we're cutting ourselves off from even more of the power of intention. So what do? Well, we had a lot of good advice from this week's larger spread. But let's see if we've got any advice or a message, a core message from this week's spread, from this week's smaller spread. So, friends, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the question I ask every week. What is the central message of this week's five element spread? Then I'll show you the spread that we got, and then we'll start talking about it. Are you all ready to go? Here are the cards and the question. Friends, what do you think of the decks I used? There were 2 decks, right? One of them is an oracle deck. One of them is called the Tarot of Musterberg. I finally got myself a copy of the Tarot of Musterberg. Now, looking at the Tarot of Musterberg, I wasn't exactly sure what language to begin this video with, because it's not really a French Marseille style deck. Yeah? If you looked at the arrangement of the cups, there were cups there, right? You saw that that's not really Tarot de Marseille. It's a little bit more like a Spanish deck, but it's not really Italian. It's its own thing. But it's not a, I'm not going to call it a pip deck either. If you see the whole deck, you'll see that yes, the swords and the cups are, the ordering of things is a little bit different, but it's not just a plain, it's not just, okay, so, sorry. My unconscious judgmentalism is coming through. It's not just a pip deck. So, pip decks are wonderful, perfectly valid, valuable, and wonderful things. However, I don't see this as a pip deck. I see this as one of the variants of the antique Italian and antique Spanish and French Tarot de Marseille tradition. So that's the way I'm going to be reading this. Darn it. And there was, okay, so you saw from left to right, we had the 8 of Cups, the Ace of Cups, and then a card called the Siren. And you might have been thinking to yourself, what the heck is the Siren? If you don't have this deck, you might be thinking, that's not a tarot deck, that's an oracle deck. The Siren is an additional card put in by the creators of the Tarot of Musterberg. And it's card number 22. Yeah, 21 is the World. Le Mat, the Fool. Le Faux is unnumbered. It's not, traditionally it's not even 0. It has no number. Just like card 13 has no name, the Fool, the Mat, Le Mat has no number. This card has a number. It's number 22, right after the World. And it's interesting. It's got a hint of the World to it too, but we'll get to it in a moment. So, what do you think of that deck? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you have it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm very, very happy to finally have the Tarot of Musterberg in my hands. The backs, I've gotten used to the backs. Frankly, the backs I neither love nor hate, but they're okay. You know, they're okay. I would have preferred a color that was more like the bluish grays on the front than this color, which seems to be not part of the palette of the fronts. If you know what I mean? There's a definite color palette to the front of the deck, to the faces of the deck. And this color seems outside of that palette, and I would have preferred to have had a bluish grayish color that was similar to the blue grays on the faces of the cards. Does that make sense? Or maybe an orange, like the orange that's being used on the faces of the cards. Or a green as used on the faces of the cards. This color just seems unrelated. Just my own personal thing. Otherwise, I love the deck. The cardstock feels cardboardy, but to the touch, this like rubbing your fingers against it, it feels cardboardy, but yet there's a core in there. It will be very, very durable. So, love this deck. Highly recommend this deck. Then there was that weird deck at the bottom, right? The cards from that weird deck at the bottom. That is the Oracle Beline. And I got myself a copy of the Oracle Beline. I didn't go all out for the gold-edged deck. I can edge this deck on my own if I want to. The edged deck is much more expensive than this unedged version. And I think it's only the edging that's different. But this is a deck I'm going to start using, I think, with my Tarot de Marseille readings. You noticed that there were planetary glyphs on each one of the cards. So this is a deck of 52 cards, and it's split up among the 7 classical planets: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Now those 7 classical planets are spread out over this deck in groups, and I think I'm going to read this like I might read a Lenormand deck. Now, it isn't a Lenormand deck. It's not even an expanded Lenormand deck. It's a different deck. It's the Cercle de Lune. And it has no playing card associations. It's astrologically based. And yet, there's this feel that looking at the guidebook, looking at the cards, I've got the feel of Lenormand rather than a different kind of an oracle deck, if that makes sense. So I'm going to read this deck. I'm going to be pulling like 3 cards every time I use this deck and read it like I would read a Lenormand deck. Okay? So, here we are. Let's get into the reading. We've got the Eight of Cups, the Ace of Cups, and the Siren. The Siren is looking towards the cups. So I think the Siren is who we are, and the cups are what the Siren has on her mind. Now the Siren is the main message, I think, and the cups are what is influencing the Siren. So, who is this gorgeous Siren? You see the lemniscate above the Siren, right? Beautiful Siren. There are lots of fish poking their heads up. According to the creator of the guidebook, of the deck and the guidebook, those fish are looking up in adoration of the Siren. So the Siren is enchantment. It's beguiling beauty, according to the creators. Its glamour and charm are coming here. So, growing respect and admiration from those around us is possible. The beckon of adventure and the promise of the unknown is here too. It's a journey of enchantment and freedom. And that these qualities are lasting. That's the reason the lemniscate is above there. They're eternal. They are lasting qualities. But you'll also see that this Siren has not dived into the waters yet. Right? The Siren here is sitting there being admired and looking in the direction of the enchantment that is coming, of the adventure that is to be experienced, of the journey of excitement that lies ahead of. Here it's a female presenting being, but him, her, them. Yeah? Gorgeous red hair, right? And that's kind of the central message of this week's larger spread. We are the Siren. The Siren, it hasn't dived in yet. It's not time to dive in. We're gazing off in the direction of our adventure, of our metamorphosis, of our transition and our change and our coming adventure. But we haven't gone into the waters yet. And it's interesting that it's waters because the next 2 cards are water cards, right? Ace of Cups. New feelings. The desire to socialize and forge deep connections with others, yes. But this is the card of newness, new connections, new intimacy, new love, new feelings. Feelings of the heart, from amorous enthusiasm to mysticism, all of those watery feelings, but new. the distillation of loving and being loved. I'm sorry, the disposition of loving and being loved. The capacity to love, but still it's not fully employed yet. It's still new, right? So this card is newness of feelings, of love in potential, new intimacies. So that's the direction I think that the siren is heading towards. It's new feelings, and they could be romantic, they could be broader than just romance. Romance is beautiful, it's important, and it's wonderful, but there is also more. There are other kinds of love in addition to romance, and it could be those other kinds of love in addition or rather than romantic. New intimacy could be with a lover, but it could be with a friend. It could be with a coworker. Yeah, but it's the newness, right? Of making new connections somehow. Romantic or loving in another way. And that moves us into the direction of the Eight of Cups, which is unconditional love. The unity of self and other with gratitude. And for me, the way for me to best access love is through gratitude. I've found. Gratitude, if there's a door that opens onto love, for me, that door is often difficult to find. I'm not saying that I don't love, but oftentimes finding the door to that opens up to that full, deep feeling of unconditional love is difficult to find. The door that opens onto gratitude is much easier for me to find. Does that make sense? And I've found that if I've opened the door to and I've entered the room of gratitude, the door that opens into love is visible and much more easily accessible. So here, unconditional love, unity of self and other, perhaps through gratitude. Involvement with other people, favorable human interactions and relations, and an environment that holds all of that. Love of the universe as well, the planet, our neighbors, the creatures that inhabit the universe, the world, and the universe, yeah. Because we are love, and we recognize that we are love. And through that love, through our recognition that we are love, we find harmony, we find peace of heart, we find balance, and we find grace. Which is the essence of this siren, right? Glamour, charm, and grace is there too. Because we are in union with the divine. And that union with the divine is here in the Eight of Cups. And maybe that's the journey of moving from new feelings into unconditional love, from desires to socialize into the unity of self and other, from our new connections and new intimacies to gratitude and involvement and an environment of favorable interactions with knowing that we are love. Love is not just something that we do or that we feel, that we are love. That's the journey, right? That's the journey. That we are on the siren, and maybe we're getting a little bit more recognition now. We have the potential for more recognition, and we're about to embark on a journey of love that goes from the beginning into fullness. And it's a lasting journey. It's not like, yeah, we find a new partner and yes, I am unconditionally loving. It's a lasting journey of deepening unconditional love. That's the way it looks on top. What's below? And that's something I hadn't thought about. I wonder if this oracle is going to give us what's below the top spread rather than the advice for the spread. Well, maybe it's a little bit of both. So, I had not thought of that until just now. You saw the 3 cards from the Cercle de Lune. It's a smallish deck. The Tarot of Musterberg is a little bit small. Now, if we consider a US Games sized deck, this is kind of US Games sized deck. The Tarot of Musterberg is thinner and shorter. The Cercle de Lune is about the same width as the Tarot of Musterberg, but even shorter still, right? That's about the same width as the Tarot of Musterberg, but shorter. So, not saying for some people smaller is better, for some people smaller is not better. For me, I prefer a larger deck, but for this Oracle deck, it's, I guess, maybe bridge size, and it's easy enough for me to handle. There are some decks that are even smaller, and they do get difficult for me to shuffle. This was no problem to shuffle. Okay, so you saw from left to right, we had a card that looked like, well, where are you? There you are. Looked like maybe a rooster with 2 hearts that have been pierced with arrows, and it didn't look like a very happy card. A happy card, yes. It's called the Wounded Hearts, according to the guidebook. The title on the side is Passions. Passions. My first thought was the 3, okay, full disclosure. My first thought when I saw this card was the 3 of Swords from the Smith-Waite deck. Yeah, the swords piercing the heart, and I thought, oh, heartbreak, horrible stuff, sadness, sadness, sadness. And it's not that. It is passions. Yeah, it's a burst of enthusiasm. It's also infatuation, but it's the infatuation of a flash in the pan. It seems to be short-lived, temporary, fiery passions. And it's associated with Venus, which is beauty and it's love. But this isn't the love of the mature Venus of like Libra, perhaps, where there's consistency there, and there's an endurance. There's a long-lastingness here. This is the young, sprightly Venus of I love you, I see you, I love you, which can be wonderful. I'm not saying that's not, love at first sight is not wonderful, but love at first sight is not the same as a relationship of 80 years. Not saying that love at first sight is somehow inconsequential. I think that could also be equally profound. But it does not have the endurance here. This is a flash in the pan. Then we have the dog, which is associated with the sun, which has more endurance, right? And the dog is, let's see what it says on the side here. It says, united thoughts, yeah? Thoughts in unity. So this is like the dog in, maybe that's why I thought I'd read this deck as Lenormand. Like the dog in the Lenormand deck, this is the card of, what would you expect? Friendship, faithfulness, also thought, and friendly relations. But this is enduring, right? There's an endurance here. And it's interesting that there's a clover there at the bottom, which also makes me think of the clover card, which would be good luck as well. I'm sorry, that's not unité, it's amité. So, thoughts and friendship. I misread the French. The French on the side says thoughts, pensée, and amitié, so friendship. Which is interesting, because the next card is the Two of Swords. Immediately thought, of course, of the Two of Swords from the Smith-Waite deck. The lady holding those two swords, making decisions, and her eyes are blindfolded and not being able to see clearly, maybe blind justice, all those things ran through my head. But here, the Two Swords, this is the card, is called Procès, which makes me think of process. And it's associated with Mars, which is fiery, which is active. Venus is receptive, Mars is active. These two swords, the first word in the guidebook is chicaneries. Trickery to achieve a purpose. It could be discussions. It could be litigations. It could also be antagonism and opposition. And so, that's interesting. Now, I mean, if we think of these two cards at the very ends, we've got Venus and Mars. They are partners. They're planetary partners. Venus is giving us passions and infatuations and very, very quick action. Very, very quick loving stuff. The Two of Swords, it could also be very, very quick, right? Chicanery, trickery in order to achieve a purpose. Antagonisms, opposition, litigation. Litigation can be drawn out, but it could also be quick litigations. Quick opposition, like, no. Antagonism. And in the center, what do we have? We have friendship. We have the sun of endurance. Faithfulness. Friendly relations. Thought. Friendship. So it seems to me that this spread is telling us what we want is the center. We want to be the balanced center. And maybe that friendship could have begun with a love at first sight. It could have begun with a burst of enthusiasm, with an infatuation. Or, who knows, the friendship could have begun with trickery and antagonisms and litigation, where suddenly, after a while, you're fighting with somebody and then suddenly things change and you become friends. That happens, right? But I think the idea here is, with this whole spread, is and considering that lemniscate at the top of the head of the siren here, and that whole thing was centered around love, right? Siren's looking at the two cups. We want to have the endurance. We want to embody the endurance of the dog. Friendship. Friendly relations. Faithfulness to those around us. And be cautious of those things on the side, of passions and infatuations which may seem wonderful but can lead us off in a different direction. In addition, we want to be wary of those feelings of being clever and tricking people into getting our way, right? Into being, what's that D word? Disingenuous? Or outright antagonistic in order to fight for what we want. We don't want that either. We want the center. I think we want the central card here of the dog. Friendship, faithfulness, friendly relations, moving forward at a steady pace with faithfulness, which was the advice from this week's larger spread, which was a combination of two cards. I have them right here at my side. I had not even thought of that until this moment, of endurance and relief. Summed up here, I think, in the dog card, in a sense. Does that make sense to you? If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I think we're on a journey that is a journey of love, the journey of the heart. From the new to the unconditional, to the united, to the flowering of unconditionality. The path is one of that is called for, that what? Endurance is called for, faithfulness is called for, friendship is called for. And those passions, both exciting and irritating, are things we want to be cautious of. Right? So that's our reading for this week. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense for you in particular. And if it does, again, let me know in the comments below. So friends, here we are at the end. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for walking through this reading with me. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.